We all have our own favourite weapons in Battlefield games. Some people like close-range gameplay and they go for SMGs or shotguns. Some people like to snipe other people's heads off. And some people just like to watch the world burn and they like to prone with their bipod MMGs on a rock somewhere, just blending into the surroundings. In this video today, we're going to go through my top 3 assault class weapons. They might not statistically be the best in the game, but these are the ones that I like and the ones that I go to use all the time at the moment. I'll be making 3 more videos over the next week or so to cover some of my favourite weapons in the other 3 infantry classes as well, so be on the lookout for those. Okay then, let's get into it. We're going to start off with a weapon that I've grown very recently to like quite a lot, and it's now one of my go-to rifles in the assault class, the AGM-42. This was one of the very first weapons added to Battlefield 5 through the Tides of War weekly challenges system back in the first chapter in the game called Overture. Now, I know a lot of people might raise their eyes to this and say, hey Westie, you do know that the M1A1 carbine exists in Battlefield 5 and is also a nice fast-firing semi-automatic rifle that you can choose, right? And to those people I say, yes, I do know that that weapon exists, but I just feel more comfortable with the AGM-42 for some reason, and I'm a bit of a sucker for rifles that reload through a receiver. It just makes for a nicer animation to look at. The main reason that I use the M42 over the M1A1 is its greater effect at longer ranges. Both weapons are good, fast-firing semi-automatic rifles, but I want something that can deal with enemies at longer ranges, and the M42 for me is just better at doing that. It has a reduced damage drop-off and a higher muzzle velocity, and that means that shots hit harder and they hit somewhat quicker at longer ranges, but you continue to retain the fast 450 round per minute rate of fire, which is what the M42 shares with the M1A1 carbine. It's one of the best attributes of this weapon. If somebody surprises you at close range, you have the ability to spam a few rounds at them and maybe get a lucky kill, but you can also use that faster rate of fire at range by landing multiple shots on target faster before the enemy has time to react. Now, the main downside of the M42, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Despite the fact that I like watching the reload animations, the reloads are what make this weapon a little bit difficult to deal with sometimes. The low magazine capacity of just 10 rounds means you're going to be watching a lot of reload animations with this thing, and they take longer to complete because the rounds are loaded into an internal magazine via a receiver on top of the weapon rather than using a box magazine that you can just detach. If you hit the reload button on any rounds left other than 5 or 0, then you're going to be reloading some of those rounds round by round at a time through the receiver, and that takes even longer. However, I have found that sometimes if you've only got a couple of bullets left or 1 bullet left in that magazine, firing that off out of the magazine first of all and then reloading allows 2 full stripper clips into the magazine, and that cuts down the amount of time that you're not engaging in the gunfights going on around you. So that's kind of a way to soften the negative there. And something that I really do like about the AGM-42 is the inclusion of a 2x integrated scope, which for the assault class is almost the perfect magnification, and the M1A1 carbine doesn't come with a 2x optic. You're either stuck at 1x or 3x. With a 2x optic, you're able to use it in close, medium and long range situations very well, and it just helps you focus on the target that little bit more. Right then, next weapon on the list, the Gewehr 43. I fell in love with this during Battlefield 5's alpha back in the summer of 2018. I still love it today just as much. And there's just something about it. I think it's the reload animations, the sound of the weapon, the way it looks on the screen with a 3x optic on it. I just really like the way that this weapon feels, and that's separate from the way it performs. Now, it's not a weapon that I've really used that much recently, I will admit, but that's thanks to the rise of the AGM-42 in my pecking order that we were just talking about. But it is an iconic weapon from World War II. It's one that I really enjoy using. It just sounds really deliberate and gritty, and in the game, it's a great hard hitter as well. The Gewehr 43 is almost everything that the AGM-42 rifle isn't. It feels heavier, it shoots slower, it hits harder, and it does look rather imposing on the screen when you're running around with it. Sometimes I like weapons simply because they look cool, which is probably not a good process to follow, considering you should always try and pick weapons that work best in different scenarios, but luckily, the Gewehr 43 is almost always a strong pick if you're playing the assault class anyway. The extremely high damage output, or damage per shot, at close range is one of my favourite parts to the Gewehr 43. 45 max damage out to about 25 metres makes it absolutely deadly. And if you can manage a headshot in a gunfight, you're looking at a 2-shot kill, which is pretty insane. With just 10 rounds fitted into an internal magazine, you will have to be a little bit more conservative with your ammo, making sure to properly aim at targets and try and hit them, but with the minimum damage dropping to 33.5 at 75 meters, then the most you're ever going to need to take down enemies, provided they don't hit the heal button in the middle of the gunfight, is 4 shots. Theoretically, if you were on point with your aim, you could take down 3 players per magazine with the Gewehr 43, although I think you'd struggle a little bit if those targets were at longer distances. And if you equip the high velocity bullet specialization to the Gewehr 43, you can hammer out shots at 860 meters a second, which really helps when aiming for targets at longer ranges. And then the fire rate, at just 300 rounds per minute, the 43 isn't going to let you go spamming bullets off target too much either. Unlike the AGM-42 rifle that we were just talking about, which does have a little bit of spammability to it, the 43 is a much more controlled, deliberate weapon in Battlefield 5. I kind of see the Gewehr 43 as the assault class's recon rifle. It's got high damage output, a slow rate of fire, and high bullet velocity, and that makes it a great weapon for operating at longer ranges. The higher damage output, that can help you in close quarters, but very often you're likely to be beaten by weapons with a much higher rate of fire, and that's where a semi-automatic rifle like the AGM-42 might give you a little bit more help. The Gewehr 43, for its long-range power, is my second spot in the assault class list. I really like using this weapon in Battlefield 5. And then, in spot number 1, I think it's a fairly obvious choice, the STG-44, one of the most iconic weapons from the World War II era, and a weapon in Battlefield 5 that can really adapt to any number of different situations. It's like a jack of all trades, this weapon. You will notice that this is the only fully automatic weapon in my list for the assault class, and that did surprise me a little bit when I was making this video, but then after a while it did make sense. This is virtually the only fully automatic weapon in the assault class currently that I'm bothering to use because it's so damn good compared to almost anything else. Firstly, its accuracy. It was better than all other assault rifles in the game until the Ribbe Rolls 1918 was added to Battlefield 5 at the end of December last year, but it's still a very accurate weapon. Recoil per shot is low for the STG, and if you combine that with a relatively slow rate of fire, 600 rounds per minute, you end up with a rifle that can perform almost in any scenario that you put it in. It's an adaptable weapon. At close range, use full auto fire, it's controlled and relatively easy to manage. At mid-range, longer burst fire use, you'll be consistently landing shots on target, but you need to make sure that those bursts are kept nice and short. And then, at long range, you can switch the weapon over to semi-auto fire, whack on a 3x optic, and you've got yourself a really handy semi-automatic rifle for bothering the enemy team with. Like I said, really any situation you put it in, the STG has got a pretty good use case. I really do like how much the weapon can effectively be used as a burst rifle, but of course there is no burst limiter that's fitted to it. First shot recoil on the STG is fairly low, and out to the 4th bullet in the burst you won't really feel that recoil all that much, and that's great for medium range combat where full auto would push that recoil up a little bit too much and you wouldn't be able to keep your shots on target. So burst fire with this thing, really, really good. And lastly, it gets some really good treatment when it comes to cosmetic items, the skins in Battlefield 5. And yes, I know that the skins don't do anything, but once the weapon is on screen, it's got some of the best skins in the game that you can apply it to. It's clearly popular amongst the player base, and DICE seems to be making skins for it all the time. I think I've got every single skin that you can get for it so far. I love the Survivalist skin, I like the Cinder skin, I like the Napalm skin, I like the Chromed Finish skin, all of them. They look great on the STG, it looks great on the screen, and that does something for me. This video today is sponsored by Elgato Gaming and their Stream Deck unit. The Stream Deck features 15 programmable LCD keys that can help you switch scenes, launch different media, and adjust audio levels. All the keys are fully customizable, so you can make them match your setup, and there's direct integration with programs like OBS, NVIDIA Shadowplay, Twitch, and even more. For more information on the Elgato Stream Deck, click the link at the top of the description. So there you have it, my favourite weapons currently in the Assault class in Battlefield 5. Things may very well change as we move through more Battlefield 5 content in the future, but for now, I'm confident that this list isn't going to change. Thank you very much for watching today, guys. Let me know your favourite Assault weapons down below in the comments section, and drop this video a like if you enjoyed it. But until next time, my name is Westie, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.